want to make sure.
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, so yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Asia Delgado, and I'm going to share my story with you guys today. So, just a little introduction, a little bit about myself. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so I really like to just dabble in a little bit of everything creatively. And I'm definitely someone who's very free spirited, sensitive, charismatic, and I really like to express that through my artwork and even express like a lot of my vulnerabilities or just sensitivity through my work as well. And now I'm going to get into my big picture learning experience. And basically, how I started my journey is I started my journey at the Met High School, which is a big picture school in Providence, Rhode Island. And I started there as a freshman in 2012, and I graduated in 2016. And I was a little drawn to the school mostly because my brother, he also went to the Met. He graduated the year before I did. And, my mom also felt like a bit safer with us going to school together, but it also just seemed like a great school that fit me. I had a hard time with traditional learning and just the regular academic school system. I was always someone who got very distracted and struggled with ADD. So traditional schools were always such a struggle for me to just stay focused, and it didn't really offer me the learning experience that I really needed. And I felt like the Met offered just that for me, and it definitely did. And some of my best or most memorable moments were definitely just the people I've met there, my advisor, the support, and just the never ending encouragement that I got from the Met. I would also say too, a lot of the trips we took, internships I did, it offered me a lot of hands-on experience. And just in general, it just offered me a space where I could really be myself, really just open up and feel free and safe to really be who I am. And I didn't really get that from a lot of schools or any school really besides the Met. And it definitely kicked off a lot of things for me and helped me grow and just get out of my shell a lot as well. Yeah. So I was honestly torn between fashion. I loved art overall. I always did internships at the Met that were very art related. So I did a lot of fashion internships. I did a lot of retail internships. I did an internship with makeup artistry. And I just try to explore, dabble in anything creatively. And once I got to my senior year, I would just say that I kind of had an epiphany, and I was at a point where I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life? I know I want to be an artist. I know I love art, but I was just always under the impression that I couldn't become a successful artist, or that I couldn't make real money or have a real job as an artist. So I feel like that kind of discouraged me a little bit to apply to colleges, art related, or just really take that big leap, because I was just, I thought I had to do something more traditional. Even though the Met offered me so much space to just do what I wanted to do, and it was always up to me. And that's what I think really helped me grow as a student. It was still like, I was indecisive, kind of going back and forth about it. But once I realized, this is my passion, I'm going to take the risk. There was literally like 2 months left to apply to art schools. I took two art college classes at the Met in my senior year, which was awesome because a lot of other high schools didn't allow you to do that. And I got real college credits from them. So taking art classes and just going to an after school program called New Urban Arts really just helped me build a portfolio. They helped me kind of get a portfolio together because I didn't really have strong pieces that I could use to apply to college. And I was just kind of stuck while dealing with all of that and applying to schools my senior year. I was also working on my senior thesis project. And for my senior thesis, I did like an art show in my building at the time. And I also created sweatshirts and hoodies because in my senior year, I interned at AS220 Print Shop, which is a print shop in Providence, Rhode Island. And I was really happy to get that internship too, because it was really hard to get art internships or find art internships and art mentors besides like fashion related. So that was like my first real internship where I was able to do, something a little different away from 3D art and into more of the visual art field that I wanted to be in. So yeah, and this is just a picture of me and one of my classmates. He's wearing one of the hoodies I've made in our high school year. I would say, yeah, it was senior year when we took this. So yeah, my senior year, this is like the art show I kind of curated in my building. And this is a photo of me at my valedictorian speech. And it was also just something very memorable for me because at the Met, every student was able to do a valedictorian speech. And, I never thought I'd get the chance to do that because that's usually for the most intelligent student. And it's like everybody just got a chance to really share their story and experience. And that was probably one of the most emotional days as a Met student and having to kind of say goodbye to everyone. But they definitely prepared me so much for what I was going on and moving on to next. And these pieces also were featured within my art portfolio that I had sent out to art colleges. I did everything so last minute applying to college. I had like 2 months left to apply to colleges. So I really didn't know what to expect or where I would go or how it would work out for me. But my school definitely helped prepare me so much for it. So after the Met, I ended up going to college. I attended Mass Art in Boston, Massachusetts. And I was very nervous at first and just really scared to take that big leap. I thought another friend of mine from the Met would be joining me too. So I was a little nervous just going to college alone and not really knowing what to expect. No one in my family has ever been to college. So I was a first generation. And a lot of my family hasn't even graduated high school. So going to college didn't even seem like a possibility, especially someone who struggled in school a lot. I thought I was the last person who would be going to college, but my mom really pushed me to take the opportunity and just go for it anyways. And I would say my freshman year was a little hard at first. I did feel very lonely and just very hard on myself because a lot of students there, they had a lot of experience. They've been perfecting their craft and, they really had their skills kind of developed already. And I took a break from art for a while because I was just so scared to pursue it. And I thought if I couldn't draw realistically, then I couldn't be a successful artist. And since I was always very creative in other ways with my style, how I dressed, but it took a lot of practice to really become a better drawer and a better artist overall, technically speaking. And yeah, so for our freshman year, we just spent a lot of time taking a lot of drawing classes. We didn't start our majors until our sophomore year of college. So I spent a lot of my freshman year just doing drawing assignments and basically doing our basic art classes that we kind of had to get out the way to develop our skill set and technique a bit more. But after my freshman year, I was kind of torn in between printmaking and painting, and I ended up choosing printmaking as my major. And I always loved to paint. It was something I knew that I could always pursue still or still go after. So I was more drawn towards printmaking because it was something that I didn't really know a lot about. I did do an internship at the print shop when I was in my senior year of high school, but that was mostly like graphic design, and we mostly focused on screen printing, which is only one type of printmaking. And I just knew there was so many things to learn and explore with printmaking. And it just seemed like it was something that I've never really heard of or seen before. So it really intrigued me to go after it and learn a bit more about. And these are just some examples of some of the prints I've made throughout my college years. But there was one kind of style of printmaking that I really was drawn to more, and it was etching. And basically, etching is a type of printmaking where it's called intaglio, and you are engraving into the surface. There are different types of etching as well, but the one I adored more was hard ground etching, which you see here in this slide. Hard ground is basically, the best way I like to describe it is basically hard ground is like scratch away art. You apply this black slip, and we often used copper plates. So this is a sheet of copper, but you can also etch into plexiglass and other materials. But we mostly use copper, and basically we use this black slip that we applied over the copper. And after we let that dry, we would go in with an etching needle, and then we would draw the image that we wanted to create. And basically that hard ground would scratch away with whatever marks we put into the surface. After drawing your image, you put it in acid, a literal acid tank that we had. You would put it in acid, let it sit for up to 45 minutes or even a couple hours if you really want the acid to engrave into your marks. And then you apply your ink, you put it in a printmaking press, and then it kind of just squeezes the ink into the paper, and that creates your image. And if you want to add color to it, you would roll out an ink slab where you use an actual roller, and after you roll out the slab, you kind of just roll it on top of the image. So this was my favorite way of working. And I feel like at first I struggled a lot in printmaking because it is a very traditional way of working, and it is a fine arts major. And I just felt really pressured, or just felt like I had to create a certain type of artwork that I know didn't come naturally to me. So whenever I tried to conform to those other ways, or to have that traditional classic style of working, is when I kind of made work I didn't like, or it just didn't come out as successful because it wasn't really authentic to me. But once I started learning more about my personal style and the way I liked to create, I just realized how much more naturally and how much more better doing my art and printmaking felt for me. I really fell in love with collaging, and I realized I always loved color blocking, even within my own personal style. And I just realized how much I love to collage. And whenever I made a print or something I didn't like, I would just cut them up, reassemble them, and create a whole new image that I actually admired. And the thing I love that printmaking allowed me to do, it allowed me to mix different print processes and combine them into a collage. And they gave me the freedom to kind of just do anything I wanted within a print. They gave us requirements for like assignments and stuff, but it was always free will on how we could put it together or how we could, take the assignment in our own direction. And once I just started really becoming more authentic to myself and realizing how much I love to work with color and layering, it just opened up a whole new realm for me as an artist. And that's when I just started mixing with other processes and layering and working differently in ways that just came more naturally to me. Instead of trying so hard to draw perfectly, I did what came naturally. And I realized doing these shapes and working with these organic shapes is something that was more fun and more authentic to my type of style of working. But yeah, and I loved printmaking too because you could mix so many different ways and so many different processes of working. This is called like a monotype monoprint. And it's basically like painting. You kind of just paint on the surface, or you can roll a slab over, ink slab over this and stencil and layer color by color and create your image. So yeah, it just offered so many different ways of working, and it even incorporated styles of painting, drawing, everything. And once I started to learn how much I love to layer and how good I was with color and my relationship to color, is when it kind of expanded and helped me develop my own personal style, even within my paintings. Because even with painting, I felt that same way where it was like I tried so hard to create a certain style or a certain look, but eventually my paintings just kind of developed into their own style as well because of what I was learning through printmaking also. But yeah, once I started really being authentic to myself and what worked for me is when I kind of opened up a whole new realm for myself. And yeah, so even after college, we kind of ended off on a weird note because my last semester in college was when the pandemic actually started. So we kind of just after spring break had to leave everything behind and work from home. So I was mostly working on paintings since I couldn't get any work done in the print shop anymore. And I was a little disappointed because I worked like so long to really get where I was, and I just really wanted to prove myself a bit more and show what I could do a bit more with my last semester at Mass Art. And I felt like that was kind of taken away. We didn't get like a graduation either, which was a little, it was really tough at first. I got laid off from my job that I worked on the weekends. And I also even got to work at my school as a print shop monitor, which I really enjoyed doing because it just also taught me so much as a printmaker and how to run a print shop. So I was kind of in a state of like desperateness and really just trying to find and think of ways of how I could make my passions into a real career. And, you kind of have to think about that already once you finish college. But since it kind of came a little sooner than I had thought, I was really trying to think of what can I do? I'm at home, I'm in quarantine, I can't really do much. Like, what's the next thing for me? College, I'm graduating in May. So after graduating, I honestly just I took a risk and kind of went in my own direction, and I started my own business. And Asia Print basically got inspired by printmaking for me. I just used my name and I make prints, or I was making a lot of prints at the time. So I felt like it was a great fit. Even the shape I used, it got inspired by just the shapes I like to work with within my art, and the colors too. I felt like really represented the color palettes I like to use as well. And it kind of just started off as jewelry. I was really kind of getting into resin art because it just looked really fun, or it was kind of like a hobby that I picked up on at first. But as it went on, I really wanted to expand more. And I know I always loved fashion, but it just seemed not like the right fit for me to really pursue. But in a way, I always wanted to make my own clothes. And I know I always had a good sense of style, and I just had really good ideas. So I thought, how can I expand more and make more clothes or create more merchandise for Asia Print? So that's when I kind of just started using my logo a bit more, putting it on clothing. But then I expanded more and thought of printmaking and thought of my own personal artwork. And I just always loved color blocking and working with color so much within my art that I really was just trying to think of ways that I could bring that into clothing as well. And that's when I started dyeing clothes, customizing clothes, and just painting my own shapes and adding my own personal ways of making art into my clothing. Even with the color blocking, I always just try to think of ways that I could make colors work with each other, like I did with my own artwork. And then it just kind of started expanding more. And I started just thinking of more ways that I can add variety to different clothing or add more options. For the summer, I created bucket hats for the first time and added my own shapes to them as well. And I just always loved too tie dyeing. It was just like a fun, quick hobby sometimes that I did, that I tried in high school, I did at home. So I just started expanding more and working a lot more with dyes and working a lot more with fabric paint to, incorporate my love for fashion and my personal style of art to become one. And I just expanded more and more, thinking of different ideas, different ways to put shapes on my clothes, or just even customizing overall. I always ripped my own jeans, customized my own type of clothing. I can sew, and I've always liked to sew, but I never took it too far. But this allowed me more space to just paint and do the things I originally liked to do, but instead added to clothing. And yeah, even for the summer, I made shirts and shorts too. I do a lot of sweatpants and hoodies. I just try to incorporate and push more my own personal style and my own love for color. And I would definitely say that going in this direction really makes me think back on college and how I started in college, but also where I started in high school and how far I've come from there. I never in a million years thought I would be, an artist kind of pursuing their own passion in this way. I was always so afraid to take the risk, or I didn't think I'd be able to go so far. And I really can't say that the Met helped me be that person. They offered me the space to feel comfortable. I was always so shy. Like I was always such a outgoing person, but it took a while for me to really open up and be myself. And I feel like the mat really offered me that space to be myself, to jump outside of my comfort zone, to not be afraid of taking the risk or being judged. Even in college, when I had to present, we always did exhibitions at the Met. So it really helped me with my own personal presenting skills. It helped me with talking to new people, meeting new artists, and just kind of going out of my way to really be independent. Even before I was just so afraid to even ask for help. I was the type of kid that if I had to even use the bathroom, I wouldn't ask my teacher to use the bathroom. But the mat allowed me to really open myself up a bit more and just not be scared or not be so worried, and also just be so authentic to myself and who I am. It took a long time to really embrace that and go in that direction, but I really wouldn't be the person I am today without that experience, without these experiences. But yeah, I'm just honestly so proud of where I am right now and how far my business has come. It's been about a year, and it just seems to get better and better every time I drop something new or I do something new. And this really all started with high school. I always had it in me, but going to high school there just really gave me that push that I needed to not play it so safe or not feel like I had to have a traditional learning experience or a traditional job. You know, I thought I had to have a job like my mom, be a secretary, or which is fine, but you know, I just always played it safe, or I was so fine with settling until I really went to the mat and saw that the opportunities are endless for me. But yeah, thank you guys so much. And if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Thank you guys.
How can we support you? Do you have a website? Do you have social media? Because it's great to hear, your passions translate from high school to, you know, college to now your business. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, thank you. But I actually do have a website. My website, you can find like all of my merchandise and the items that I sell there. It's called asiaprint.co. So it's like, you know, .com without the N. And my Instagram is also called Asia Print. So it's just Asia, my name, and then print, no spaces. But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Oh, of course.
So I have a quick question for you. So I am the child, brother, and nephew of studio art majors, and when I was growing up, I sort of saw this opposite world of art versus business. So I would love to hear, from your journey, where did you start to pick up some of that business sense along the way? Was it through the Met, or did you pick it up later in college, or did you just dive right in the past year?
Yeah, I would say maybe a little bit of everything. I never really knew much about business, but I knew the Met did teach me a lot about making connections and really just putting myself out there and willing to ask and collaborate with people. So I feel like in that aspect, the Met really helped me when it came to that and really just taking the risk. But overall, I would say a little bit of college too, because I learned primarily about art in the art world through college. So that's what kind of helped me in that sense. But I would also say too, it's also just an everyday learning experience for me. from my first drop to now, I just feel like I'm still learning so much about running a business and what it really means to be a successful business owner. And there's just still so many things that I'm learning every single day about how to grow my business overall. So I would just say through mistakes or just through doing it every day, whenever I drop something new and do something new for my business, I feel like I start to learn something from it every time. So I would just say, really, just time overall is what's giving me the knowledge that I have about running one. But yeah, it's all fairly new to me still.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that question. That was a good one.
Cool. Any other questions? Okay. If not, thank you so much, Asia, and thank you everyone who attended. Yes, like Stephanie said, it was so great to hear your